Hello, friends. How's everyone doing this beautiful Sunday morning? Thank you so much for joining us. You may have joined us last time. I know that I did this show solo last time, but you and I did like a little Sunday comics chat a couple of weeks ago. But now you and I are back to talk about new issues that came out in
Yay.
November. You and I were just talking about a couple of the things that came out. It feels like November was ridiculously long. So there was
hmm
like, oh, that came out in November. I can't believe that. So November's actually been a pretty big, solid month, I think, for new comic book releases. Um,
I feel like the past 3 months have been huge, if I'm being honest, because like
yeah,
if we look at September and October, those were huge. We had heavy hitters like We Live and Autumnal and all that. And now I feel like November is rounding out the curve, which is okay because I think looking into December, I think it's going to slow down a
yeah,
little bit.
for sure. And I think, I don't know if that's something that like the publishers and like whoever gets to decide that, someone who gets paid a lot more than me, but they get to decide the schedule of things coming out. So I don't know if
hmm
they're saving November for holiday pickups, and they're like, okay, well, more people are going to buy
Probably.
trades, so we don't want to take away from that.
Yeah, because
Because
when you look at like DC in particular, like they're very trade heavy for December versus
mhm,
their solo issues. And I mean, yeah, they're getting ready for Future State and stuff, but like
yeah.
it's all about pushing those Christmas sales, let's be honest.
Hmm. I feel like we could probably do a whole, I would love to do maybe an episode or talk for an hour about all of the cool trades that are coming out in December that I personally think would make good gifts
That would be
for
fun.
holiday gift giving season. I'm really excited about Wonder Woman Dead Earth. I picked up all of the single issues. It was one of my favorite
So
series.
good.
So good. So I'm really excited. I think that trade actually comes up this week, so I know that I will be picking that up. And I think that there's a couple other ones that are coming out. So want to go ahead and just say good morning to the chat. Let's go ahead and see here. Hero and the Kid. I'm not
Good
sure if it's
morning.
Hero or if it's Will. I'm not sure who it is, but good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. Um, Wonderful. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Um, I want to go ahead and say I think that Marvel dropped the ball on first issues, like a new series this month.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure if it was because we had the big Ten of Swords. I'm like looking over here for my Ten of Swords books, but I'm not sure if it was because they were doing that event. There's a couple other things, but
Yeah, it feels like they're like right in between Ten of Swords and then King and Black. So I feel like maybe that's why because they know that they're overwhelming their fans with King and Black. I mean, I think that's going to be about as big if not bigger than X of Swords,
yeah.
but it's going to definitely be a lot. So totally understand why they wanted to slow the roll on that.
Definitely. I think the only one that I recall is Werewolf by Night, and I can't even think if that maybe came out the last week of October or if it was in November. But the new Werewolf by Night was the only thing that I could think of that's
Mhm.
like an ongoing series and not a one shot because they did come out with the indigenous voices, so that was like the only other thing that I could really think of that was a new issue by Marvel.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Womp
um,
womp.
womp womp. I know that, so let me go ahead and just kind of go with the first first issues from DC, and there
Mhm.
were really only two on my list, and that was Punchline #1. We got her. Oh, sorry, my face is.
I really want to make your bad am I the joke and you're the punchline, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I
My
make it
delivery is not as
constantly.
good.
Um, yes, it. I loved this series. I did not necessarily like Punchline at first because I'm like, are they just trying to, I just thought it was going to be like a lesbian scissor fantasy with Harley and Punchline, and
But we would be okay with that in some aspects. I mean, in some aspects, if it was done tastefully and done by a female team, I would be okay with that.
I would say I would be okay with that as long as they gave us Ivy and Harley. If they legitimately gave us like an Ivy Harley like
well,
romance.
You heard they're getting married.
I did.
It's so exciting.
But isn't that like in a different universe or like in a
No, I think it's in so they did get officially married in the Injustice universe.
Okay.
But DC Comics announced in February that they are putting out a massive Valentine's Day issue like they usually do every year. And right now it's Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy spearheading it. And I believe it's being written by a queer woman. And they tease something about a woman, or not a woman, a wedding. And I'm like, we did it. We finally did it. It took 6-7 years of process, but we did it.
Especially because it's been happening in like in Bombshells, there was a relationship.
Bombshells in the animated series that Harley Quinn has, they're basically together, like I said, in the Injustice universe. It's basically everything but the canon universe. And I think DC Comics is realizing that fans are just tired of it and just want to see these two characters together because they honestly have way more chemistry than her and Joker ever did.
100%. And, you know, even if whatever chemistry is there between her and the Joker, you know, it's really not the
it's not a healthy chemistry.
It's not a healthy relationship whatsoever. So whenever people are like, I'm his Harley and he's my Joker.
Oh God, doesn't that just make you want to like vomit? Like I really want to vomit on people when they say that. And I'm like, you realize you're glorifying a toxic, abusive relationship, right? Like, so I'm hoping the new trend will be she's the Ivy to my Harley or vice versa. That would be so cute.
Please and thank you. So I'm very excited about that now. I'm excited about Future State, and seriously, I know that there's like 20-something titles coming out, and I'm just like, put all of them on my pull list. I'm going to need every single one of them.
Oh, you're a warrior woman. I can't do that many. There's no way.
My perspective is I actually got rid of my car. So I don't have a car payment and like all the other BS that comes with that. So I'm pretty much just spending all the money on comic books, and that's like $700.
And I'm the opposite. I recently got a car payment, so now I can't spend all that money on comics. Jen, what have you done? You just gave me your car payment.
You're welcome. That is Punchline. I actually really enjoyed this after months of making fun of DC and Punchline. I actually really enjoyed this. I think that James Tynion did a phenomenal job writing this. Maybe it's also because I had just come off of reading Batman 3 Jokers, which I did not enjoy whatsoever. We don't need another Killing Joke. I don't know.
Can we bury the Killing Joke? Like Alan Moore doesn't even like Killing Joke. Can we bury it?
Yeah. I mean, Alan Moore doesn't like anything, but yeah, I don't think that, like, I get why Killing Joke is there because it's a classic. And I do think that some people should read it, but I don't think people should feel obligated to read it.
That's a good way of putting it.
But, you know, I don't think that the Three Jokers was that great. Spoiler alert, I didn't enjoy it. So I did not honestly think that I was going to like this after months of making fun of the one joke that she makes where she's like, you're the joke and I'm the punchline. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to torture myself with it. It was actually really good. I
like Mirka Andolfo's art in it. I was flipping through it. I didn't pick it up myself, but I really like her art. And I think that she was like a perfect artist they could have grabbed for that series.
I think that I am a much bigger fan of Mirka Andolfo's art than I am of her writing because I absolutely hated Mercy, Red Mercy, and it was just not fun.
Well, it's like Unnatural. Unnatural is the same way. I feel like Unnatural read it for the whole fetish of it, for lack of a better word. Yeah. And when you're reading it, I mean, it started off really good, but then it just ended up being predictable and boring and didn't make sense. And I feel like the same goes for her other miniseries, Unsacred. Unsacred isn't that great either. And
I haven't read Unsacred, but I've read Unnatural. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. Like I appreciate and it's so funny because I was actually before the stream before we got on here, I have two books that I wanted to talk to you about. So maybe we'll talk about those later. But
Yay.
I'm 100% okay with you know, gratuitous nudity and anything like that. But I just anyways,
We
I
need
didn't
substance behind it sometimes, though.
yes, 100%. So anyways, I think that Punchline was this actually fleshes out the character a little bit more, gives her a reason to exist, and I really just I enjoyed this a lot, and I really do want to read more of this. So I'm actually going to pick this up and not in a um
You're not going to hate read it. You're going to
I'm not
enjoy
going to
reading
hate
it.
read it. I mean, maybe if I don't like an issue, I may hate read it a little bit, but I'm not going to do it just for the sake of doing it. I actually really enjoyed this one. So, I can't wait to read more of this.
Yay.
The other one from DC, which I really enjoyed, is the other history of the DC universe, and it features characters of color. I seriously enjoyed
Oh,
this book
wow.
so much. There's also let me go ahead and see here. There was one particular splash page where I'm like, oh, they did that. So if there's anyone who's like, I don't like politics and comics, you probably are not going to enjoy this. And I don't think that you deserve to, because this was just too damn good. And I know I'm flipping through and I can see the artwork, but a lot of it's like big splash pages. But the page that really got me with this was this right here. And I'm not sure.
Yes. I love
So,
that.
as a bleeding heart leftist person, I really just appreciated the Ronald Reagan with the blood splatter, kind of like a throwback to Watchmen, but then it also says, "Let's make America great again." So I think just poking fun at the, you know, current campaigns that are going on or that were going on, people who lost. So anyways, I really just appreciated that.
I
Um,
really like that. I think that's one I'm gonna wait until it's out and
mhm,
compiled to read. I do have an interest in it, but for me, collecting those, I know we talked about this on our Thursday night stream that we did at Comic Chop News, but I hate storing those oversized magazines because I have a filing cabinet for all of my comics and they don't fit in the filing cabinet. So I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for a trade.
I probably have all of 10 magazine sized comics, and it's all the Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, The Question, and now this one and a couple other ones that are just
Mm-hmm.
like weirdly formatted. And I ended up having to buy a whole big thing of 100 bags and boards for these magazines, and it's probably going to take me like an entire year to get through all of these. Not that I'm
Yeah.
complaining because I do have to pick up 100 bags and boards probably every month or two for normal sized ones, but I'm just annoyed that I had to buy 100 in order to get those.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I want to go ahead and pull up some comments. Let's go and see. We put up a cover of Savage Dragon and didn't talk politics at all, and people were getting all riled up.
Is it the Biden Harris cover? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what so I think
I
that
think
there
that's
was this
funny as shit.
100%. And, you know, I understand if when the same way that you and I were just talking about like gratuitous nudity and like gratuitous sexuality, like I'm a fan of it, but 100% I want some substance behind it. And I think that's when a lot of times people confuse saying, well, I want substance behind talking about politics. 100% I'll agree with that statement all day, every day. But when people are like, I don't want politics in my comics, I'm like, boo boo, politics have been in comics this whole time. Like it's
I mean, the
from the
X Men literally is founded on racism and equality, and don't know what to tell you. Captain America's been fighting Nazis since his debut, so
100%. And even when we take a look at the very wholesome history of Wonder Woman, basically started by a thruple, a polyamorous relationship that was hella queer, hella
and really into
into
bondage.
bondage. It's like this is where your superheroes started. There
Yeah.
will always be politics. Like any, I could literally only talk about politics and comics, but it's there. But I do understand that people want like substance. But behind every single political or everything, those creators have politics and they're allowed to put them in their book. If you don't like it, just don't buy it. You
Simple as
know,
that.
Simple as that. Okay, so I want to go ahead and also shout out Varangian Vigilante, one of my favorite people. He knows that I am a very, very big fan of gratuitous nudity in books, so I appreciate all of his recommendations. And I do want to go ahead and say hello to John's Comics with Kids, one of my other favorite people in the world, joins us on Comic Chop News on the streams. Really, really glad that you could be here. Okay. So, really quick discussion on Marvel and DC, like first appearances and new series. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and my favorite part of the show
The
is
indie books.
the indie books,
The
man.
indie books were so good. I mean, the indie books have been good for the past couple months, but it's like that's where I feel like that's just where comics are going. I really do, and maybe that's
Yeah.
just me because I'm so burnt out on the same stuff over and over, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to see some new content basically.
100%. And whenever, like, I don't want to say like I grew up with superheroes, because I discovered comic books a little bit later, like maybe more when I was like 12, 13, like not necessarily like young reading Spider-Man, but like when I was around 13, 14, I was reading stuff like Batman and getting into that. And I feel like I've read every single Batman story, and like I have a special place in my heart for it, but at the same time, it's kind of like I want more than just superheroes. These superhero characters have been around for so long. They try to do some new things. Sometimes it's new, sometimes it's not. But the cool thing about indie stories, and I will die on this hill, is that you don't have to read 5 decades worth of comics to get into one character.
Exactly. That, and the best thing is you can go to a shelf, find number one, and then boom, bam, you're done.
Yes, and
That's my
especially
other favorite thing.
when it comes to indie comic books, and let's go ahead and we'll start off with Image. So with Image Comics, most of their first trades are going to be $9.99, so $10. Sometimes, like, I'm a big fan of buying them used, so sometimes I can find them used for like $6, $7. Like, why the hell not?
You can't beat that.
No, not at all. And so when I think about getting into comics, it's so much easier to get into indie comics, and more likely than not, you're going to see yourself reflected in the characters and the creators. So you're going to see, in my opinion, the way that the world looks around you, right? Like you're going to see more characters of color, you're going to see more queer characters, and I just appreciate that because those are the people who I surround myself with. So the first one, and we were talking about this, speaking of Image Comics, is Crossover. I don't have
Neither of us can find our copy. We have no idea where it went, but
it crossed over. Maybe there's like
it's gone.
In the crossover universe, they have our comics and they're like, where did this comic book come from? So I'm just going to pretend to hold up a crossover here.
So I remember when this book was announced, I think me and you were actually doing a show together, and we were like, oh, what could this be? We're so excited. It could either be a entire crossover of all Donny Cates stuff, and like maybe in some weird universe, Marvel diving into Image, or just like a giant Image crossover in general. And then we found out, and we were both very upset, that it was just a book called Crossover. And I'm like,
yep.
fuck.
I was like, I'm seriously listening to We Got Rickrolled, man. Like, they are never going to give us up. They're never going to let us down. So like, I remember seeing that Donny Cates had posted like the 3 little dots, and then said crossover, and everyone went crazy speculating. They're like, oh, it's going to be this like big crossover event. And I'm like, okay, like I'll bite a little bit. And then it got announced and it's a title called Crossover. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, so anyways, Crossover.
I went into this expecting to hate it.
100%.
I legitimately went into this like wanting to hate read it just because of that
Yeah.
betrayal of it just being a crossover, like a book name crossover. But I really, really liked this one. I did not expect to. I love I love seeing the inside of comic shops. I love seeing that. I'm sure you can relate as somebody who has worked in a comic book shop and seeing that underlayer
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing how it's affected in their universe. I thought that was really great. I love the idea that superhero comics are now outlawed. And now that's all
Yeah.
that's left are like sci-fi comics and cowboy comics and
Mm-hmm.
all of that jazz. So I think that was really interesting. And then when they teased towards the end that it's going to be a romance story, I'm like, a
Yeah.
romance, you say? I would
Mm-hmm.
like 10 copies.
Right. I when I first, because I got a like an advanced copy of it, and I'm like, okay, I actually really enjoy this, but someone had said it's gonna do for, or I think I saw a headline, and it was like, maybe it was like Comic Book Resources or one of those comic book news sites, and it was like crossover is gonna do for Watchmen. This is gonna be the next Watchmen, and I read it and
Oof,
I'm like,
that's a bad take.
what? Now that I kind of think about it, the I can see the very loose strings.
Mm-hmm.
The Because what crossover was is that in this event in Colorado, the like a superhero universe that's all like pixelated, that like pop art circle stuff. Um, those superhero characters ended up coming over, crossing over into our universe, causing havoc. And now people hate superheroes, people hate comic books, and I can see the like little strings to Watchmen because in Watchmen,
Because it's a universe
they're
where superheroes are the bad guys, basically.
exactly, so I can see like that little nod to Watchmen, but this is 100%, it's a love letter to comic books, and two, it is a
100%.
love letter to Image comic books, because on one of the characters is wearing an
Yes.
Invincible shirt, and
And then
so
there
I
was a
think
couple of like things too that were like I think on like the shelves of the shop there were
mhm,
a couple of different Image titles as well, but that was really awesome. And it reminded me, I don't know if you read this one this year, but Olympia was a
mhm,
5-issue miniseries from Image
yep,
that did a very similar thing where it was a love letter to comics. It was a love letter to Image Comics.
yeah,
And like I said, I just like those books that take a deeper appreciation into the history and to the medium because without it we wouldn't be where we are with comics. We really wouldn't. So
no.
like I feel like this Bad Weekend and Olympia are all going to be lumped into a little we love comics ball for me.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good take on it. I'm curious. I think that the next issue comes out this week, or possibly next week, sometime in the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to pick it up and see where it goes. So, um, the only other, what was another Image series? I feel like
I don't
even.
think there was anything else from it, at least for me that I picked up.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, yeah. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and so I've got two IDW titles. I think that you're going to have three. So the three that came out this month for IDW. First off, let's go ahead and talk about Scarenthood.
I
This kind of
hated it.
got, yeah, I feel like this one was kind of mixed. I know that you hated it. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't. I don't love it enough to be like, okay, this needs to go on my pull list, and I'm going to pick up another issue. I will probably go ahead and wait for the trade on this. And I think the reason why I didn't love it, and maybe tell me if you're wrong, if this is why you hated it, I don't feel like if I hear Scarenthood, I want it to be scary, and it wasn't scary.
Exactly. So when they announced this book as like cults and demons, and I'm like, all right, I'm down for it. I'm vibing with it. There wasn't anything scary about it. It was just boring suburban white I mean it wasn't all white characters, but it was a suburban white neighborhood that was just boring. And it's like if I want that, I'll walk outside in my neighborhood and see that.
Yeah.
I want to see some demons. I want to see some creepy ass cults. Not only that, but this book was delayed at least 3 times and I was like, okay, I can wait a little bit more. I was so excited for this book. I think this was like one of my most anticipated books and I couldn't even finish it. I was
Yeah.
that bored with it, and there was that much exposition and dialogue. And like when I flip through it now, it's like looking at how much text is on these pages, I'm like, am I reading a Scott Snyder book? Because that's how it feels. And I even cheated, and I was like, let me look at like the last 2 pages. Let me see if there's something about it that will drag me in and make me be like, okay, let's keep going. And I'm like, this is boring. Like, why am I even going to finish reading this? So
Yeah.
it's going to get a negative from me. The art's really cool though. I like some of the art in it and the style of it, but was not a fan.
Yeah. Next one for me, I know that you didn't pick this one up, but I'm a Star Trek super nerd. So of course I picked up Star Trek Voyager. I'm trying to show it so it doesn't like reflect on my lights. So like I said, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and Voyager, even though it's not necessarily one of my favorite series, and sometimes the Star Trek comic books can be very hit or miss. There was one, I think that it was year 5, and it had the original cast. Didn't enjoy it. And I did enjoy the Discovery series that recently came out. And then this one, I'm like, okay, I'll bite. I'll see what's going on. I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't feel like it was cheesy. I feel like it takes it into new directions because we get to see some of the Borg. We get to see our girl Seven of Nine. We get to see Janeway. So I really enjoyed this. I'm probably going to keep picking up the single issues as well as buy the trade because I love me some Star Trek. So that one was good for me. If I had to rate it on a scale of 10, I would definitely give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Oh, that's always exciting because, like, it's very similar to Star Wars, where it's like there's just so much out there that it can feel like it's just being done for money. So it's really fantastic when you get those stories that feel like they're making an impact in the universe and the lore, and is one that makes you want to, see where it's going.
Yeah, and when it comes to books that are like almost like new, I don't know if like there's a term for it, but like legacy, right? So like it
Mm-hmm.
has this big legacy behind it, but then you have this smaller universe within it. Like who are you making the book for? Are you making it for fans? Are you making it for people who know everything about it, or are you making it for new readers to jump in? And I think that that's what I liked about this was because it wasn't cheesy. I was even like when one of the other Star Trek series that I got, in the second page, it had Spock going, oh, that's highly illogical or something like that. And I'm like, really, can you just write him better? If you're writing something like that, then it's like, you're not reaching far. And I
Yeah.
picked this up and I'm like, man, we're gonna see Janeway talk about there's coffee in that nebula or whatever. And we didn't. So it was really original. I think that people who like Star Trek are going to like this. People who like Star Trek Voyager are going to like this. People who have never watched Star Trek or never watched anything like that but know some of the lore still may enjoy this. So you had another IDW title that I didn't get a chance
Yeah.
to pick up.
So I was able to actually get Sea of Sorrows, and I realized that the logo is actually really bad when you try to show it. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
looks really nice in person, but like there's no, look at that, it just kind of washes out. But
Yeah.
so Sea of Sorrows, I actually picked this one up on a whim. I wasn't originally going to pick it up, but I saw it at the shop and I started flipping through, and I realized that it had killer mermaids and naked killer mermaids, and I'm like, I'm interested in this. So Sea of Sorrows, it's not one that I'm going to put on my pull list, but it is definitely one I want to check out by trade. I think there's going to be a lot of people that do really enjoy this and want to put it on their pull list. It is very creepy, very dark. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of The Thing in a way, and
Okay.
I
I
like
like
the way
that.
that I like the way that it's illustrated. So it is very, very dark, which makes sense because they're doing these deep sea diving expeditions and there's these killer mermaids, so they kind of don't show you a whole lot, and I don't normally see that with comics. Like, normally you see that with movies and television where they intentionally make things dark to hide what's coming. So to see that done in a flat static illustration, I think is really, really cool to see and really inventive. So like I said, for me it was a little slow. There wasn't quite enough killer mermaids in the first issue, but I feel like people that really do like these sort of stories and like horror are really going to appreciate it. I think overall it's going to be a really decent story.
I appreciate that a lot. the idea of like killer mermaids.
It's
I
great.
100% identify with that. I think that you're right though, that that cover doesn't have a lot of like shelf appeal, like where people may have been, because I went looking for it and the shop didn't have it, so I skipped it, and I heard that some shops didn't get it, maybe that there was an issue. So for me to add something like that to my pull list, I would have had to read number one and really like it.
Mhm.
So I think that it's going to be tough for me wanting to add that to my pull list without having read the first one. So it's more than likely going to be a trade pickup for me. Um, I hope that they do a much better design for the first,
Yeah,
for
and what's
the,
crazy is it has a gorgeous variant cover. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see this, but it has a gorgeous variant cover of one of the Killer
okay.
Mermaids. And I'm like,
Oh.
I wish I had been able to get that one because she's really cute and I really like her.
Hmm.
Also, we need to pop a Vigilantes comment because I want to briefly talk about Stray Dogs because
I was
I'm
going to say
so excited for it.
I have no clue what it is, so I'm so
So
glad you know.
it's published by Image Comics. It is described as Lady and the Tramp meets Hannibal. And I'm like, okay, I'm fucking into this. And the best part about it is the variant cover is an homage to the Silence of the Lambs poster. So I know I'm
Oh.
picking up both copies. I'm really excited about it. I love those stories where animals gain sentience and like have their own personalities and talk kind of like an Animal Farm type thing.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited. Not to mention it has this like cute appeal to it. Like the illustrations are very cartoony and cute, but you know this is going to be dark and sick as fuck.
Yep.
So that is like my
Ooh.
number one most anticipated comic right now. I'm so sad it doesn't come out till February, but
Okay. I'm
soon.
glad that Vigilante brought that up because maybe I had seen it with Image on their like whenever they send out press releases and stuff, but that sounds really, really interesting. It, like you said, I'd maybe say like We Three by Grant Morrison and oh my goodness. Okay, I'm excited for it. I'll definitely be picking that
It's
one up.
exciting.
Okay, so I know that we were going like publisher by publisher, but I
Mhm.
do want to briefly talk about A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night by Behemoth. Um,
This was so good. And listen, you knew I didn't because I'm a big dummy. I had no idea that this was a movie. And
mhm.
now I need to watch the movie. But it's a vampire girl vigilante on a skateboard, Jen. It's
Yeah,
our aesthetic.
100%. This is a very much a mood. I feel like the covers are very simple, and so when you mine's in a uh bag and board, but if you I love the artwork. It's so simple, but it's so dramatic and it definitely keeps up.
Exactly.
Um
And I love those covers. So like if we look at Sea of Sorrows compared with A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, I feel like these are two very, very similar covers. But I just feel like it's this pop of red. It's that single image in the center. And I know that this is now I know that this is the movie cover. But like
mhm,
this, I had pre-ordered it. But here's the thing. If I was just walking through a shop, I would look at this and be like, okay, what is this? And want to flip through. Um,
mhm.
and can we talk about how, and I like this, it feels more like a zine than a comic. And
Yes, it does.
I think that it's partially due to it being a black and white, but the paper quality, it's like a newsprint quality. And I feel
Mhm.
like there's something normally I would be like, ew, what is this? But there's something about this that just everything works.
Have you read Black Hole by Charles Burns?
I have it. I've read bits and pieces of it. I
Okay.
actually have it sitting on my shelf. I need to finish it.
It's really good, but the artwork almost reminds me of that. Like it's very simple, black and white.
Yes.
There, little shading marks here and there,
Yep.
but it's not too much. I really enjoyed this one. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get a copy of it, and like thankfully my LCS was like, "Hey, we thought that you would like this, so we just put it in your like box. Is that okay?" And I'm
That's
like,
so
"Oh my god."
exciting.
Anytime you do that, like I don't even care, just do it. So I'm really glad that they did that because this is probably one of my favorite titles.
I just
Um,
want to be best friends with her. Like, I love
yeah,
her. I want to be best friends. She goes around killing and hunting perverts and just mean men, and I want to be best friends with her. That's as simple
yeah,
as that, Jen.
100%. Um, every time I hear so Behemoth Comics is not necessarily a publisher that I'm like familiar with at all. I am a big fan of the band Behemoth, which is like a satanic metal death metal band, which I love. Um, so I don't really know too much about Behemoth Comics, but I'm really excited.
That they like, and it's crazy to think that a small publisher, I know that this isn't the biggest movie, but the fact that they were able to get the rights to something like this.
Yeah.
But speaking of Behemoth Comics, they actually just published, and you might actually really like it, another story called Necromorphous.
Ooh,
And it
okay.
is like a kid who's like thousands of years old, but he can shapeshift and become different bodies, and like it's him interacting with people. Also, at one point it gets really, really gay, so I feel like double points for that. But that's another one that's
Done.
in black and white and that I really liked. It's not one that I'm going to, because again, we've established I'm very picky with what goes onto my pool list,
Hmm.
but it is definitely one that when it comes out in trade, I'm immediately going to pick it up. So I think it's one that you definitely should look into and look up,
Yeah.
because I think you would like it.
Those are like several of my trigger words. So just yes.
Exactly. Demons,
Yeah.
gay, I guess black and white is now a trigger word too, maybe.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, simple artwork. Not really sure. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up by Gore. Black Hole by Charles Burns is deceptive. His style is
Oh,
cartoony, but his
totally.
writing is adult themed. Interesting writer and artist, 100%. Black Hole was one of the ones that I remember reading when I was in high school, and um, like so those are always the fond comic books that I remember, like Sandman, Fables, Batman, like those were the ones that I was reading. And so like Black Hole by Charles Burns was one of the ones that I really, really fondly remember. Um, okay. So um let's go ahead, and if you are okay with it, I want to go ahead and talk about this one by Dark Horse. This was one of the only first issues that I think that Dark Horse came out with. Um,
Possibly.
possibly. I'm not, like I said, this was such a like long month. November was fucking destroyed me. But let me go ahead and see here. I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the month. Um, Sweet Tooth #1 was one of the only others by, is that, no, that was
That's DC
Vertigo.
Black Label.
That is DC's
Vertigo
Black
doesn't
Label.
exist anymore. We totally
Yep,
missed that one.
totally missed that
But
one.
can we just, this I'm saying it. I'm saying it. This is my favorite book of the month, okay?
Really?
And I did not pre-order this. I picked this up on the shelf on a whim. I love the Black Hammer series. I think it's fantastic, but I've been kind of staying away from all of the spin-offs and the side
Hmm.
stories because I still have one trade left of the main story. Not only that, but I was like, it's really ambitious that this little indie story from Dark Horse is getting to be as massive as it is. Like, it is
Hmm.
insane how much it feels like every time you turn around, there's new Black Hammer stuff. But Barbalian, because of his queerness, holds a special place in my heart. And I was like, you know what? Let me pick it up. And I cried. Like, it's very rare that a first issue, let alone an indie issue, makes me cry. But this one made me cry multiple times,
Yeah.
and this really is, again, the whole Black Hammer universe is a love story to comics. I mean,
Yes.
Barbalian is a cop from Mars named Mark Martz. Where have I heard that before?
Hmm.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Next, you're going to tell me that his favorite food is Oreo cookies. But the fact that this focuses on his queerness, the fact that it focuses on the AIDS movement, that
And
whole, I know we've talked about this and I keep talking about it. I'm going to continue to keep talking about it, but this splash page when he goes to the queer nightclub for the first
mhm.
time and realizes, you can just see it on his face, that there are people just like him, because you got to think about it. He's already an alien on this strange planet. Now he's realizing and thinks that people don't like him because he's queer. So that makes him feel even more alien. And now he's discovering that there's people in the universe just like him. Like,
and
that's so special.
For someone like, I mean, I'm sure you like obviously have the same way or have the same like experiences, but you know, when I turned 21 and was finally able to go into gay bars and see drag shows and just going and experiencing this nightlife, like that to me was a huge stepping stone. And I'm not a religious person whatsoever, but drag shows are the closest thing to a religious experience that I have ever experienced. That and going out to like goth nightclubs and just being able to go in and see people who look
Are just
like how you feel. And
now, you're from Florida. You just mentioned nightclubs. You're from Florida. Have you been to the castle in Tampa?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Okay, because I've only been once, and that to me, walking into that was like a religious experience.
Same. Once again, I could probably do like a whole show on like goth nightclubs here. So you've got to come out to Portland, and we are going to go to a club called Lovecraft, or it was called Lovecraft. Now it's called Coffin Club because Lovecraft was a racist, and they changed the name. So, anyways, once again, religious experience there. But yes, I absolutely love the castle. When I go back to Florida, it's going to be like one of the places
first thing
that
on your list.
Yeah. So going into places like that experience that Barbalian had when he went into like a nightclub, that it felt like that, like people just loving themselves, living their life. That's beautiful. And it's so cool to see a character like Barbalian experience that, especially because I feel like in the original like Black Hammer series, it's kind of coded that way.
It is, but I also feel like, and I'm not saying that I hate this, but I do kind of hate it. It felt like his story focused very much on queer trauma.
Yeah.
Because not only was his backstory about him being rejected by his partner, who we see in this, but he was also rejected by the priest guy or whatever. And I just want to see him happy. And I feel like, yeah, there's still a little bit of trauma. I mean, it's not necessarily trauma. I think it's more turmoil than trauma. And him trying to figure out his own emotions. So I like seeing that. And I'm normally not a fan of, the traditional queer coming out story. And it feels like this is kind of a coming out story, but it's more so a reaffirmation than a coming out. And that is what makes me happy. So I don't know about you, but this one immediately went onto my pull list when I read it.
Yep. I would also highly recommend anyone who is familiar with the Black Hammer universe. This was a new issue from last month, but Colonel Weird Cosmogogue, another one of my I feel like I love all the characters for the most part.
They're so good
in Black Hammer. Jeff Lemire does a really good, has a really wonderful way of writing, and I really appreciate that. So I would also really recommend Colonel Weird for
100%.
any. If you read the single issues and all of that. So another one that I do want to go ahead and talk about from Mad Cave. This was one of the only first issues. I think Pantomime came out at the beginning of the month, but I don't have that in front of me. But Terminal Punks, I know you and I have differing opinions on this, and that's okay.
It's okay.
I really enjoyed Terminal Punks a lot. It felt like, to me, I describe it as Lumberjanes, but if the Lumberjanes was not just lady types, but non-binary, all inclusive, and it's a punk band who's going to go to like a battle of the bands in New York. They get stuck in the airplane terminal with a disease breaks out, and there's a whole bunch of like rabid animals.
Killer monkeys.
Killer monkeys. So, I thought it was adorable.
I can see why a lot of people will like this. I'm not necessarily saying like, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, well, it's a bad series. Yeah. I think this is one of those series that just is not for me, but I definitely think that it has an audience. I I did really love the art style of it. I think the art is fantastic. And now that you said it, it having its own like Lumberjanes feel to it, definitely see that. Definitely will relate that. You know, anytime I recommend this book, I love that. And the non-binary inclusions, like it felt so natural. It wasn't like, hey, here's my friend, and they go by they them. It was just like they do this, and I'm like, oh shit, we're just gonna throw it on in there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Comics, please do this. So Mad Cave, if you happen to listen to this, thank you for always creating inclusive stories. We love you, like 100%. We love you.
Yep. There's been a couple other titles that I know that we're both big fans of, like Stargazer, I know is one of your favorites from them.
I love Stargazer right now. Oh man, if you want good horror, thriller, sci-fi,
it's like a little bit of everything.
So
it's
beautiful.
really good. And then I'm a big fan of Dryfoot. I enjoyed that title.
Good.
So once again, and I'll probably, every time I pick up a Mad Cave title, I really just want to go ahead and say, for an indie publisher that I don't think is very well recognized for the quality of work that they put out. I think that Mad Cave is going to be one of the next up and coming publishers, and I think
it's the new Volt Comics. I feel like Volt Comics is going to slide up to like an Image level. Okay, maybe not quite an Image level, but like just under Image. I feel like Mad Cave is going to take its place, and then maybe we'll see more publishers slowly slide up. But Mad Cave is killing it right now. They really are with their quality.
And I think that a lot of these stories, maybe not in the next year or two, but maybe in the next 5 years, I think that we're going to see one of these titles for Mad Cave become like a Netflix series, or like I could definitely see some of these becoming series and
it's going to be Stargazer. You know, I'm already saying it. It's going to be Stargazer.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that Stargazer has that really really interesting blend of, like you said, sci-fi horror, and then just kind of like slice of life, dealing with trauma, things like that. So I think that it's going to be the next Stranger Things. So, 100%. If for you speculators out there, if you can get a hold of Stargazer #1, I highly recommend it. So I want to end with Vault Comics, because I really love Vault Comics. So I don't know if you want to go over Aftershock really quick before we go.
Would love to talk about this one as well from Scout, because I know that Scout can tend to be hit or miss, and I feel like this one was a hit. So this is Frank at Home on the Farm.
I don't have my copy.
It's a very simple story. It's a guy that goes back home after being away at war for a long time. His family is absolutely just gone missing. They haven't left any signs. He goes into town and is like, hey, has anybody seen my family? They live on this farm. And everybody he goes to is like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody's lived there for years. We don't know you. We don't know your family. And he starts to like see really weird delusions. Like, he starts to see like animals start to do weird things. He starts to have visions of like the farm animals coming and gaining sentience and doing things. And it's just a really creepy thriller book. And I really, really liked this one. And I know we've talked before where Scout, it really is hit or miss with their quality and stuff. Yeah. And this is going to be a crazy book. That's all I can say about it. Is if you like these weird horror thrillers, this is like a no-brainer pickup, and I feel like a lot of people are going to miss out on this one.
100%. And I think that when it does come to Scout Comics, because the quality is sometimes there, sometimes it's not. I really enjoy a lot of Scout Comics, but I know that usually it's like one or the other. Like, the story's going to be really good and the art's not there. And I feel like that's how Frank at Home on the Farm was for me. I really liked the story, wasn't crazy about the artwork, but it was still such a good story that I enjoyed it.
And I feel like the art wasn't nearly, I don't want to say it was bad, because that always makes me feel bad when I call somebody's art bad, but I feel like the art and quality wasn't as rough as it is with some of their stories. I feel like there was a happy medium for the two. I didn't mind the art personally, but I can definitely see where somebody would be coming from if they didn't enjoy it. But this is, I don't know, man. I feel like this is going to be a sleeper hit that people don't realize.
And when it comes to Scout Comics, I think that because of that quality, people are hesitant to pick up the first issues. And now there's a couple of titles that they've done, like It Eats What Feeds It, Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. Those titles have been incredible. I really enjoy Yasmin, which has been a really good story. That's on my pull list. They did Canopus, which is a weird, wacky sci-fi. They also did, there's another one that I'm thinking of. Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. It Eats What Feeds It. So anyways, I think that they just have a lot. Oh, Gut Ghost. I absolutely love Gut Ghost. It's such a wild, wacky story. Apparently my cat agrees because he's crying about it.
He is very, very audible this morning.
100%. So I think that Scout Comics, hit or miss, but just pick up the first issue. For all you speculators out there, this is a hot investment book. Whatever. That's my little pitch for Scout Comics.
If this is what we have to do to get these people to buy the book and read it, this is what we have to do, I guess.
I feel like that's why I want to do this, because these stories are so relevant, especially when I think that we're talking about the beginning of our show. We literally have like 10 minutes dedicated to Marvel and DC. And then
now it's just all indie.
Now it's just all indie. So these stories are incredible. Support your indie creators, support your local comic book shop. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one, which is going to be Aftershock Comics.
You want to do Aftershock?
And I have two from them. Miskatonic. I think you said you didn't pick this one up. Okay, so Miskatonic, I enjoyed. But the story is basically this female detective shattering glass ceilings and whatever, goes to New England and detectives the shit out of some weird shit that's going on. And there's some demons that are KKK people and whatever. I liked it, but I feel like if this title came out 10 years ago, it would be a classic. But now that I've seen shows like Lovecraft Country that tackle those same things, like sexism and racism, with an actual queer characters and actual characters of color, and this doesn't really have that, I think that this could have pushed the bar a little bit, tackling issues like racism, maybe with some characters of color, and it doesn't. So we'll see maybe with the next couple, but issue 1 I think missed the mark with that. So but I could definitely see if someone liked something like Lock and Key, they would really like Miskatonic. Well, my cat's joining us for the show. The next one for Aftershock, Kaiju Score.
I wanted to like this book. Listen, Pacific Rim is like top 5 favorite movies for me.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I love kaijus. I love Godzilla. I love Mothra. I love all those fun creature things. This just missed the mark for me. I just there was nothing to it. It was like there was like no substance, and that's what made me sad. Rembru's art is fantastic. I think he's going to be an artist to look out for. He's got a very stylish, cartoony style that I am digging right now. But for a group of like a heist group that should have all of these like really fun characters and interesting character tropes, there was absolutely nothing. And we've talked about this. I look for characterizations. I want to see fun characters. I want to be able to connect with characters, and Kaiju Score, I could not. However, the one thing I will say, and I know we talked about this with We Live, but I absolutely love at the end these little kaiju warnings and kaiju
yes
myths. And I'm hoping that Aftershock continues to do this with like all of their first issues.
I think what I liked, because this one was kind of like that mixed bag for me. I liked the artwork, but I feel like the story missed the mark a little bit. But I did like how in this story, when it comes to the kaijus, it's not like the kaijus are a surprise for them. It's like we know
like
that they're
kaijus
here.
have been around forever.
Yeah, like, like, hey, everyone, like, and especially because growing up from in Florida, it was like every year you have hurricane season. So in this book, you have like kaiju season, and we know the migratory patterns of the kaiju's favorite
Hmm.
fish are coming along. So they're going to be swooping over the Florida coast. So just watch out. And there's this art heist that's going to take place at the same time. I feel like that premise, like, it sold me.
It
I'm like,
should
okay,
work. Yeah, it
it
should
should
work.
work.
And I'm surprised something like this has not been done before. But another thing that I just thought of that I would have loved to see more, since you did mention, at this point, kaiju landfalls are a regular occurrence. I would love to see how Florida has adapted to normal kaijus. Like, get a little creative with it. Like, maybe
Hmm.
there's like kaiju merchandise, maybe there's like kaiju lingo, or like shelters that are in place that are just really creative. I wanted to see more done with the world. At this
Hmm.
point, it feels like it's just, okay, here's Florida, here's a kaiju monster.
Hmm.
I feel like this should have been like when you look at like science fiction cities and you see how they've like adapted and things
Hmm.
like that. Get a little bit more creative with your world building, because right now there is no world building, there's no character development. It's just, here's this gang, they're gonna rob a bank, there's gonna be a kaiju. Like the panel where he's literally taking a selfie with
Yep.
the kaiju, I think is the best part of the whole book. That has more character in that one page than the entire book, and I just want to see more from that.
I think that books like that need to either push the edge into very, very serious and go a little bit more horror brand with it,
Mm-hmm.
and like frightening and terrifying, or they just need to go the complete opposite and just do straight comedy. And this was somewhere
I
in the
agree.
middle. And like to your point about how does this world react to this? Like I could see, like, once again, growing up in Florida and as with SeaWorld, like, could you imagine if like there was a splash zone and people just like lined up to be um like the kaiju comes in like the splash zone and like everyone has to like
Yeah.
put stuff on. So I could see it like pushing the bar with humor a little bit. And I think that it's there because, like you said, the couple pages in the back give you a guide to the kaijus and things like that. So maybe in the next couple issues we'll see some of that humor, but I really wish that we had seen that
This is
in the
definitely
first issue.
this is definitely a trade weight for me. 100%.
100%. um we'll see how that goes, but I think that this will be a good trade, and I'm probably not going to put this one on my pull list. I might pick it up maybe. The next couple weeks look like really low pickup weeks, so if there's anything on the shelf that I'm like, okay, I'll bite, may
Hmm.
pick it up. But the artwork was really good too.
Yeah, I love Brumbrew's art. He's fantastic. Um, so last book, I guess. Is this our last book?
I have so I don't have any more for Aftershock, but I have two for Vault Comics.
I only have one. Did I miss one?
Yes. The so A Dark Interlude
Oh,
by
I
Vault
didn't pick that
Comics.
one up. That's right. Okay.
Okay, so I really just want to premise this with um this was a really weird title. There is a lot going on and not a lot of explanation. There's a lot of times when I read stories that I describe like that, like Mercy. I read it and I had no clue what was going on and I hated it. This one, I had no clue what was going on, but it was weird and it was fantastic. But I think that there's going to be a lot of people who read this first issue and they're going to be like, I had no clue what was going on. I don't like it. I want to burn it. I want my money back. I'm into the weird and I'm here for the ride, and I cannot wait to see what happens in this. But that's just because I know that it's weird and I really
You're a
trust
weird
Vault.
person.
I'm a very weird person. It's kind of like weird comics are my brand. And so basically, the premise of it is that there is a writer and his name is Henry. Henry and like there's this muse, so it goes back from like our world to this weird fantasy world. I even had trouble like reading it. I had to read it a second time to really enjoy it, but I think that this one was really fun. I think that this is going to be a sleeper hit, and I think that in the next couple of issues, we're going to get more information and people are just going to fall in love with this. I hope. I really hope, because it was weird, and I know it's not going to be for everyone, but I have trust and I have faith in Vault Comics.
As we do with always. But
Yeah.
listen, I Walk with Monsters. Oh, holy shit. So I originally was not going to pick this up because I was like, oh, okay, like it's monsters. I'm not. It feels like that's what they've been doing a lot lately, is a lot of like monster horror based stuff. And I was like, I kind of just want to take a break from it. And it was put into my box because I pick up everything for Bolt anyway. So I was like, all right, we're just going to read it. I loved this book. Listen, I need y'all to understand this. If you are reading Something is Killing the Children, this is a no-brainer pickup. This feels like a spiritual successor to Something is Killing the Children. It is very weird. It is very strange. The art is fantastic. And I really like the personality and the dialogue that comes through with this book. Like at one point, she's tied up. This monster is killing the dude that's holding her hostage, and she just goes, fucking eat him. And I'm like, I love her. And then she's like, thank you for not getting blood on me. And I'm like, okay, I really like the personality that comes with this book. It's got a lot of really dark intrigue that I am excited for. There's a page, I don't want to show it because I feel like it's a spoiler, but the one page with her brother, the big splash page, I flipped that page and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I feel like that's where it sealed the deal for me, where I'm like, I need to know what's going on, because this one is a very big tease. It does not give you a whole lot. So I feel like there's not a ton of substance with this first issue. But they literally just bait you out with it. And like I said, between that and between the personality and the chemistry between characters, that's enough to sell me on this book, 100%.
Yes. I just want to go ahead because we mentioned Something is Killing the Children. Volume 2 just came out of Something is Killing the Children. And I feel like Something is Killing the Children was one of those. I was working in a comic book shop at the time back in Florida, and Something is Killing the Children came out. The first issue, and it was a sleeper hit. It was like no one knew that it was coming out.
And then it was gone. Like you couldn't get your hands on it.
You could not pick up number 1. And I think that you're right. Because so many people are just now getting into Something is Killing the Children, I really think that if you like Something is Killing the Children, speculator, whatever, invest in I Walk with Monsters. I really think that you're going to like it. And you're right, like the attitude, and I can't remember the character's name, but her no nonsense attitude reminds me so much of Magic. Like, okay, just come
I saw
on,
somebody
just
I
fucking
saw
do it.
somebody on Twitter describe this book as Something is Killing the Children meets Punisher, and I'm like, I kind of see it and I kind of dig that, and I'm kind of here for it.
I am so here for that. That is, I was thinking Something is Killing the Children meets Hard Candy, because this one does. I feel like a lot of comic books, or a lot of stories in general, like one of the tropes is that this character faces trauma in childhood, and it could be, sexual trauma or abuse trauma, and it does it just for the sake of the story, and it doesn't actually do the character justice. And I do think that one of the stories that does that well, not that it's something that should be done well, but Girl with the Dragon Tattoo does talk about those types of themes and tropes. But I Walk with Monsters, 100% trauma, but doesn't necessarily make the character a victim for victim's sake or to just be rescued. So 100%, if you like Something is Killing the Children, if you think that you like Something is Killing the Children, you need to pick up this book. And this is why stories like this, and obviously all the other Vault comics that I've read, is this story is the reason why I have faith in other Vault comics that I pick up, because like I said, this one, I had no clue what was going on. I enjoyed it, but I have faith that this story is going to be good because of books like this. So if you haven't already, pick this up, because this is going to be one of those next hot hits, like Something is Killing the Children, that no one's going to be able to get issue number 1.
also feel like, too, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first official title under their new Nightfall imprint.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Autumnal and The Plot, I believe, were grandfathered into Nightfall, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that this is the first official one with the whole Nightfall logo on it. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's good. And I like the art, too. I think the art is really,
Mm-hmm.
really, really nice in this one. So I'm excited to see where this one goes.
Me
This,
too.
Barbalian, and Crossover all went onto my pool list out of our new issues. So yeah.
I feel like if I was going to maybe add three, I would definitely add these two, the two Vault titles. I Walk with Monsters and A Dark Interlude. Those two would definitely be making it. Terminal Punks, definitely added to my
Of
pull
course.
list. Barbalian, added. Star Trek Voyager, added because I love Star Trek. And A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Those
I was
ones,
gonna add that to my pool list, but I saw that the trade was already solicited because it's only gonna be 3 issues.
oh,
So the
okay.
trade was already solicited. That comes out, I think, in January, and it's only gonna be $10. So I'm
Oh,
like, why would I spend, what is that, 12 or
yeah,
whatever, when I could just spend the 10 for the trade? So, but I like this cover, so I'm glad I picked that up because I really do
yeah.
love the big blood red cover. So other
Mm.
than that, that would have made my pull list.
I'm also adding these two, Punchline, and then these ones, the DC Black labels that are in the magazine
Mhm.
format. These ones usually are smaller series, like a limited, like three or
Like
four.
3 to 4.
Yeah. So definitely adding those, but I like to spend that dumb bitch money.
You
So
don't have a car payment now, so you can spend
I
that
don't
dumb bitch money.
exactly. And like lots of other little things like working from home and just saving money that way. So, I'm not going out and spending money on a $10 coffee and my avocado toast every day. So I can, um,
Portland, hashtag
yeah,
Portland life.
yeah. But there is a s'mores shop here. So I'm gonna see. I might go get some like fancy bougie s'mores tonight. We'll see. Um, Done with a dude in like a leather apron or something like that. I don't know. It's artisanal. Um, it looks like I want to go ahead and thank everyone who came into the chat. So I see Gore, I see Tony, Hero and the Kid, Varangian Vigilante, John, Taylor. Sorry, going through here, mentioning everyone. And then it looks like new guy Ryan just showed up. He did say, I have Frank. Here, I'll put this up on here. I have Frank at Home on the Farm from the Kickstarter, one of my favorite series, and definitely check out what Clark Bint and Jordan Thomas are working on these days. So I
I didn't
didn't
even
know.
realize it was a Kickstarter.
Neither did I. I think that Scout Comics, so they're from Florida and from Fort Myers, where I used to live. So I got a chance to go in and like talk with the guys, and 100% very, very cool dudes. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I actually do pick up Scout Comics is because like getting to meet them and see the passion that they put into it. And I know that they really like indie stories. So that's cool to see. Really quick before we go, I would love you to talk about your Patreon because you have a Patreon. What's going on there these days?
Patreon. Oh my god, we always talk about this, and I never know what
We
to do
do.
with Patreon.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm
Yeah.
so focused on my YouTube channel and
Hmm.
putting out new content and this and that that I always forget the Patreon. So yeah, you can always check out my Patreon for
Hmm.
newsletters to see what I've been working on, little behind the scenes stuff. Bringing back the whole That Comic podcast. I'm actually going to be filming an episode very soon talking about all of the February solicitations and everything that I'll be picking up, things I'm just excited about in general. I'm probably going to rant about Stray Dogs again for another like 20 minutes because I'm so excited about that book. It's not even funny. And if it disappoints me, it's just going to be, I'm not even going to talk about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's just, Patreon's a weird place when you're a comic
it
creator
is.
or comic
Comic
content
book.
creator
Yeah.
journalists, whatever it is that we do now, because we never know what to do with it. Like,
Yeah.
you want to give me money, but what can I give you in return? Like, I'll
Mm-hmm.
take the money, but I need to be giving you
Yeah.
something back. Um, yeah, that's my Patreon, I guess. It's not very exciting, but
I
it's
feel like
whatever.
I do like random reviews on there. Like some weeks I'll go ahead and do like a pickup video, like what I picked up. Sometimes I'll do like I'll actually like write reviews and I'll do like a couple sentences for each book that I've written that week or each book that I've read that week. Um, but then like even YouTube for me is kind of a beast. Like I love doing these live streams. So like if you're here, thank you. Please like, subscribe, comment. Would love engagement on there. You also have a YouTube and you just put up
Mhm.
a new video last night, right?
I did. It is my thirstiest video yet. It was originally just a fun graphic novel haul. But then realizing the stuff that I had picked up and a very particular astonishing X-Men issue in particular, it turned into the thirstiest thing I've ever produced on the internet. And that's saying
Wonderful.
something because I'm a very thirsty person when it comes
Yeah.
to comics.
I feel like we always end up talking about like thirst traps and characters that we love and
It's our
so I
brand.
appreciate yeah 100%. I'm here. I think about it a lot. It lives rent free in my head
Rent free in
um
my head.
all day every day. Star Trek comics and or Star Trek and then comics and so many things. They can find you on you get like all this same kind of like on Twitter, YouTube,
Yeah,
Patreon, Instagram.
everything's pretty much the same at that comic girl except for Instagram. I'm that comic girl with 3 L's because some dumb bitch won't give me my handle, but it's
Yeah,
whatever. But yeah, I'm that comic girl and everything.
wonderful. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. Like I said, please like and subscribe. So this is the live video, but whenever the video actually pops up on YouTube, I will go ahead and put links to our channel or to your channel in there, as well as your Patreon. I also like to put bookshop.org in there because if you want an alternative to Amazon and money actually goes to independent bookstores when you buy from bookshop.org. I'll also go ahead and put a link to my Patreon as well as Comic Shop News, where I do like a weekly live show talking about new comics for the week, as well as like random other bullshit like movies and stuff. And then we're about to finish up the Dune over, talking about one of my favorite books, which is Dune. So we're finishing talking about this. We are going to hopefully talk about the Dune graphic novel that just came out, as well as other ones in the series. For those of you that don't know, Dune is a really big series, so we'll end up talking about Dune Messiah and Children of Dune on Comic Shop News. So I'll go ahead and once the live video or the non-live video goes up, I'll go ahead and post links in there. So, oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope that we
Of
can do
course,
another one of these next month for December. I would love to do like a yearly roundup. So I'm not sure if we're going to do that on
that
Comic
would be
Shop News
fun.
or if we can do it
It's going to
here.
be a
So
lot to take in. I now that I
it
think
will.
about it.
Hmm.
Oh man, so many
Yeah.
comics came out this year.
They really did. And even though we had like a 2-3 month period where nothing was coming out, and I know that I was just buying trade paperbacks instead of single
Mhm.
issues, but still had a lot of really cool stuff that came out. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. I know that I always do this like last minute. I'm like,
Always.
hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you just want to like
You always
show
like
up?
message me at like 11 o'clock at night. Hey, do you want to wake up super early on your last day off and film this comic book thing? And I'm like, okay.
Okay. And I've actually got to go to work in like 30 minutes, but I work from home, so it's like 10 feet that way. So
Big
thank
commute you
you.
got there.
Yeah, right. Don't have to worry about commuting either. So a little bit more money I spend on comics. So once again, thank you everyone for being here. And I hope you all have a wonderful, lovely day. Bye.
Bye.